Hello and welcome back to Crypto Saving Experts, where we talk about the latest cryptocurrency news and take a look at the markets so that we all know exactly what is happening. My name is Jess and we do these live streams every single weekday. So make sure if you are new here, don't forget to go over to YouTube and hit like, subscribe and press that bell notification button so you don't miss the latest cryptocurrency news. First of all, let's take a look at the price of Bitcoin. We are currently sat with 25,781, down 3.65% in the last 24 hours. Now, I'm sure we all know why. The SEC have started to sue Binance and CZ, and we will be discussing that in today's stream. In fact, we've got the majority of the news today based around this, and we will be talking about that in a lot of detail. And finally, we will be taking a look at the price of Bitcoin and analysing the price as well. Other than that, we have Ethereum down by 2.62% to 1,820, following Bitcoin pretty closely there on that move to the downside. We have also seen the SEC label a few different cryptocurrencies in the top 10 here as securities, including Solana, including Cardano. So they have started to see moves to the downside as well. To be honest, not as big as I expected. I mean, they've only had like a 2% extra dump than Bitcoin, and usually Bitcoin is more stable than those cryptocurrencies when we see movements like this. So they haven't dumped as much as I had expected them to. But they have seen a move to the downside. We will be discussing that later in today's stream. Interestingly, we can see here the biggest gainers of the day is Kava, which is up 8.52%. And then we have some stable coins that have moved. We have FEI up 3.21%, regaining that peg to the dollar. We have DAI and we have Pax Dollar. So that really shows the loss in the markets right now. When stable coins are the biggest gainers, that shows we really haven't seen much movement to the upside. That's typical to see in a bear market, but recently we've not seen it that often anymore. So things are looking up for the cryptocurrency space. It's just the last 24 hours where we've seen this turbulent move to the downside. But as I keep saying, when we are looking at the price of Bitcoin, we want to be building supports. We want to retest previous levels of resistance and see if they can hold. So even though we are seeing moves to the downside, I personally invest for the long term. And when I see opportunities like this, I think it's a good thing for the markets. If Bitcoin were to move in a straight line to the upside, we would all be very, very fearful when things started to turn around. We need to make sure we build levels of support along the way that can support us if we do start to see a move to the downside. Let's now take a look at what's going on in the world of crypto, though. Let's take a look at what's happening in the news, because we have a huge amount of things to discuss today. It's not been a quiet day in crypto, to say the least. And this is something that a couple of us could have expected happening. Now, the SEC have been going after many different cryptocurrency exchanges within the last couple of weeks. I've just realised, is my stream looking all smooth or is it messing up? Let me know in the chat if you can see everything clearly. What we have here is, first of all, let's click on the article here. We have some news that came out yesterday prior to the announcement of the lawsuit between the SEC and CZ and Binance. So let's look at these articles first. So before all of this even kicked off, we were seeing news that CZ was looking at who could replace him as the CEO of Binance. Now, we've seen Tank's experience. Sorry, my phone is notifying in the background here. And Tank's experience as a senior employee working for governments and tight entities makes him the ideal candidate to help resolve Binance's regulatory issues. So Binance already were looking at how they can solve the regulatory issues, and they've said that Tank could be an ideal candidate to help resolve Binance's regulatory issues. So this is somebody that has worked within Binance to try and help them. Let's take a look at the next one here. These are all articles that came out prior to this problem with the SEC. So we have here, Binance awarded security and privacy ISO certifications in France, Bahrain, and the UAE. So this is something that the SEC are doubting here. Let's take a look at the next article here, because we want to get into the good stuff and really talk about what's been happening within the last 24 hours. So we have seen that this is another article that we've not yet got to the good stuff. Binance hires former OKX exec to head global marketing efforts. So Binance were really pushing forwards. Now, it's important to note that Binance were actually working with the SEC before this news was announced. If we take a look at this, This is the big one that's caused the price of Bitcoin to drop. US SEC charges Binance and CZ with securities law violations. So they have accused Binance of offering and selling unregistered securities, misrepresenting trading controls, and operating unregistered exchanges. So what I would like to say here before we get into this article, I'm sure a lot of you that tune into these live streams every single day know all about this, but we have some issues around regulation within the US. There seems to be an overlap between the SEC and the CFTC and who is regulating the cryptocurrency industry. What we have here is that the SEC regulates securities and the CFTC regulates commodities. To determine if an asset is a security or a commodity, we use the Howey test. Now, this is a list of 4 rules, and if these rules or conditions are met when you're analysing assets, it'll be whether it's got guaranteed returns, if it has central authority. If you meet the 4 rules of the Howey test, that means the asset is a security, and if you don't, it means it's a commodity. Now, there's this debate over whether different cryptocurrencies fall into the category of a security or a commodity, but the Howey test was created in the 1940s, and it's not a regulation model that's being created for the cryptocurrency industry, and that makes it incredibly hard to take that old piece of framework and put it on this new industry where there are overlaps. For example, if we have an ICO, this can sometimes make the asset become a security because of that Howey test, but Ethereum was issued by an ICO and now it's not, it's completely decentralized. And there's all this debate about how things can change from fitting the conditions to not fitting the conditions, because the cryptocurrency industry is a new industry and it's new technology. This test from the 1940s just does not fit on top of it. So we see this problem with regulation in the US. We've all been fighting for clarity on this regulation and transparency about this regulation, and the cryptocurrency companies are not fighting against the regulators. They are trying to work with the regulators. They want to be able to operate in these regions. They don't want to be charged with all these problems. As we've seen here, if they get charged, they lose a lot of users. A lot of people choose to withdraw their funds, and the prices of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency start to fall. And that is not what Binance is trying to achieve. Binance is trying to drive adoption. The more users Binance can get, the more successful they will be as a company. They don't want to see these big obstacles in the way, and they don't want to deter people from the cryptocurrency industry. But the cryptocurrency regulation in the US is not easy, and the SEC have made it very, very difficult. Michael Saylor, who is a famous fan of Bitcoin, has been saying that he believes the SEC and the regulators in the US are making it difficult on purpose. They're not providing that clarity on purpose because they don't want to see the cryptocurrency industry blossom. However, we do need to see something be sorted out. Now, the Coinbase CEO, Brian Armstrong, has really been pushing for clarity on regulation within the last couple of months, something I definitely appreciate and many other people do within the cryptocurrency industry, but we just have not got very far. The SEC are saying they already have regulation in place, and it's going to take years to provide some more clarity around regulation in the US, but that's just not good enough right now. Yesterday, we did see a big improvement over the weekend. So we saw a draft bill being created which really separates the difference between using the CFTC to regulate cryptocurrencies and the SEC to regulate cryptocurrencies, and it really stopped that overlap, which is really the problem. But this is just a draft bill, and obviously we have a long way to go. For me, that was a really bullish event though, because it showed that we had the ball rolling and we started to see movement and discussions in the area of how we can provide clarity and transparency around regulation in the US. So it's just a shame that 2 days after that draft bill came out, when things started to look more positive, we see this new charge against Binance, one of the biggest cryptocurrency exchanges. So let's talk about this and see what they've been charged with and see what this means. Now, obviously, as I was saying, the Howey test determines whether an asset is a security or a commodity. Now, if a cryptocurrency is a security and the cryptocurrency exchanges have not registered as a securities exchange, then they are selling unregistered securities and all of these other problems and operating as an unregistered exchange. So let's take a look at this in a little bit more detail. I hope that made sense, because it is quite complex the first time you hear it. So let's take a look at this. The US SEC has filed a lawsuit against the world's largest crypto exchange, Binance, its affiliated entities, and found founder and CEO CZ, charging them with various law violations. So according to a press release, the SEC filed a complaint against Binance in the US District Court for the District of Columbia on Monday, and the charges brought against the crypto exchange include the unregistered offer and sale of securities, misrepresenting trading controls, and oversight on the Binance.us platform, and operating unregistered exchanges, broker-dealers, and clearing agencies. So they've had 13 charges against the exchange, and SEC alleged that CZ and Binance secretly controlled the operations of Binance.us. Now, this is one of Binance's subsidiaries in America. So while publicly claiming that the entity was a separate and independent platform for US investors, the US regulator also accused Binance of subverting its controls to allow high-value US clients to continue trading on the Binance.com platform, despite prohibition from local authorities. So what we're saying here is the accusation that obviously, regulation of cryptocurrency in the US is incredibly strict. And then we have Binance.com, which is for non-US citizens, and they are allowed to use many other features that people in the US are not allowed to use because of those strict regulations. And what we are seeing here is the SEC are accusing Binance of allowing those people in the US that are of high value and have high transaction fees to continue using the Binance.com platform that doesn't have all of those US restrictions in place. So what we are also seeing here is, let's take a look at this in a little bit more detail. Move on to the next one. Binance commingled user assets. Now, this is the accusation that I was very much interested in here. So taking a look at this, the SEC's complaint alleges that CZ and Binance commingle users' assets and divert them to Sigma Chain, which is an entity owned and controlled by the CEO. The agency accused BAM Trading and BAM Management US Holdings of misleading investors about non-existent trading controls in the Binance.us platform. At the same time, Sigma Chain engaged in manipulative trading and artificially inflated the platform's trading volume. In addition, the US regulator accused Binance and CZ of hiding the users' funds were being commingled and sent to Merit Peak, another entity also owned by the CEO. So through 13 charges, we allege that Zhao and Binance entities engaged in an extensive web of deception, conflict of interest, lack of disclosure, calculated evasion of the law, said the SEC chair Gary Gensler. Now, we do know that Binance and CZ had been trying to negotiate a settlement with the SEC before the regulator chose to sue, but the regulator has chosen to go down this avenue anyway. Now, we did see CZ post on Twitter. We can pull up. Let me get Twitter up here so we can see what CZ has been saying in Twitter in response to this. So CZ has been saying that he actually didn't see what this lawsuit was going to be until it was announced to the public. And he actually finds out after the press finds out, which is pretty frustrating for them because they need to create a response as quick as possible. Let's see if nothing is loading on Twitter right now. I wonder what's going on here. Not working at all. We'll have to leave that one. We'll try again at the end of today's stream. Before we move on to this article where we talk about how Binance have tried to settle this lawsuit with the SEC, let's talk about you hitting the like button and subscribing and pressing the bell notification over on YouTube at Crypto Saving Expert so you don't miss the latest cryptocurrency news. We do these live streams every single weekday at around 11 or 12 a.m. BST time. So if you are new here, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And also, we are currently streaming to Twitter, to YouTube, and to Binance Live as well. So make sure whatever platform you're on to hit that like button for us. Let's take a look at what is going on in this article here. So Binance have responded to the SEC charges against the crypto exchange and its CEO, stating the crypto exchange tried to negotiate a settlement with the regulator, and the crypto exchange accuses the SEC of abandoning the process and wanting to make headlines. Now, this is definitely something that I am on board with. The SEC have been trying to make a show of the cryptocurrency industry for quite a while now. They are not providing clarity on the regulation, and then they are deciding to hang high and dry all of the different companies that can't understand the regulation. We've seen with Coinbase. Coinbase is a publicly traded company, and it started to be publicly traded about a year and a half ago. And through that time, when you launch as a public company, you get heavily audited by all of these different regulators. So a year and a half ago, Coinbase were doing nothing wrong. Then all of a sudden, a year and a half later, when Coinbase say they haven't changed and the regulations definitely haven't changed, Coinbase gets sued by the SEC. How does that make sense? There's a lack of clarity and there's a lack of transparency, so it's very hard to understand what is happening here, but we can see clearly here that the SEC are making a show of this to try and prove that there are problems within the cryptocurrency industry. Now, we all know the cryptocurrency industry is not yet perfect. We are new into the industry. It's a new industry. Crypto has its flaws. We all need to work on that and help build the industry. It can't be perfect straight off the bat. But we want to work within the scope. These cryptocurrency companies aren't trying to fight against the regulators. They're trying to operate in a way that they can continue running in the jurisdiction and help drive adoption of the cryptocurrency industry. As I said before, Binance wants users. It wants to drive adoption of the cryptocurrency space. If more users come into crypto, Binance gets more users, they have more trading volumes, they get in more profits because they have transaction fees. That's how they make their money. More users equals more revenue. So they don't want to scare people away from the cryptocurrency industry. They want to follow regulation and they want to be able to provide their services in all of the different regions. So we can see that this is just a massive mess here. So we tried to engage with the SEC and we'll defend our platform, says Binance, and that is something that is really important. Binance is seen as it is the leading cryptocurrency exchange, and it is seen as very user-friendly and is used by many when trying to help onboard new users. A lot of new people into the cryptocurrency space do use Binance as their way to get involved because it's a fiat on and off ramp in many different regions, and it has a wide range of cryptocurrency into. But the so Binance team has written, "We are disheartened by that choice." The SEC abandoned the process of trying to resolve this behind closed doors and decided to litigate the issue in a court of law. So Binance have said, "We intend to defend our platform vigorously. All user assets on Binance and Binance affiliate platforms, including Binance US, are safe and secure, and we will be vigorously defend against any allegations to the country." So they've also added, "Perhaps most surprising, the SEC actions undermine America's role as a global hub for financial innovation and leadership. Digital asset laws remain largely undeveloped in much of the world, and regulation by enforcement is not the best path forwards." Now, we can also see here that the SEC's goal is not protecting investors, but making headlines, according to the Binance team. It seems, based on these developments, that the SEC's goal here was never to protect investors. If that were truly the case, the staff would have thoughtfully engaged with us on the facts and in our efforts to demonstrate the safety and security of the Binance US platform. The SEC's real intent here, instead, appears to be to make headlines. So that's what we were just discussing there. Let's take a look at what else we have here. So we are talking here about Binance is not a US entity. So the SEC's charges are a bit limited here. So the Binance team have written, because Binance is not a US exchange, the SEC's actions are limited in reach. Still, we stand with the digital asset market participants in the US in opposition to the SEC's latest overreach, and we are prepared to fight it to the full extent of the law. So Binance aren't just going to be charged easily. They are going to stand up for themselves. That is definitely something we need to see here at this point. Hopefully Binance can win this and we can show that cryptocurrency companies can operate correctly in the region. It's a massive problem that we have here in the cryptocurrency industry, and this is the reason I talk about regulation here every single day. If you are new around here, please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell notification button so you don't miss the latest cryptocurrency news. We do these live streams every single weekday. We are running through the latest crypto news, and then we'll be analysing the chart of Bitcoin as well. So let's take a look at the next one here. We have Terraform founder Do Kwon granted bail again by Montenegrin courts. This is the third time that they have changed their mind there. Let's move on from Binance for a second, and then we'll go back and when we look at the price of Bitcoin. So what we have here is the court readopted the original bail amount after reviewing concrete evidence that shows Kwon poses no flight risk. So Do Kwon was granted bail. So this was for €400,000 bail, and then it was appealed, and the courts decided he would no longer get this bail. And now they have reviewed concrete evidence, including bank statements, invoices of vehicles, and sales contracts, and statements about the value of the defendant's property to determine that they pose no flight risks. They've now been granted bail once again ahead of the court hearing on the 16th of June. So we've only got 10 days to go right now. Obviously, we all know that Kwon pleaded guilty to the charges on the 12th of May, and Kwon is expected to appear before the Montenegrin court on the 16th of June. Now, this is just the charges that he made. He forged documents in Montenegro following arrest in March at the airport. So this is facing those charges. If he manages to get around this one, then he gets extradited to the US and South Korean authorities on charges relating to the crash of Terraform, which caused $40 billion of losses in the cryptocurrency industry when UST depegged from the dollar and the Luna completely collapsed. We had a whole saga back in May 2022. So he has been granted bail once again, but we only have 10 days from now to see what the next step is for Do Kwon. He's in a right mess at the moment. Let's take a look at the next article here and see what else is going on. So final article before we get onto the price of Bitcoin here. Let's check it out. So there is a museum of art to return FTX's $550,000 donation. Now, we all know that FTX like to create many different donations during its time, and we are now seeing that those funds are being returned to the exchange, which could potentially be relaunching as a new cryptocurrency exchange once again. So FTX is trying to claw back its donations and trying to help understand how they can move forward as a company. Obviously, SBF caused a huge amount of problems. User funds were being traded in FTX, and unfortunately, they lost all of that money and were left with users without their funds, essentially. So that is what's happening within the cryptocurrency news right now. Let's take a look at the price of Bitcoin and see what is going on here. Let's do some Bitcoin analysis and see what's in store. I'm not even logged into TradingView this morning. What is going on with my computer today? Let's take a look. BTC USDT. Let's see. No, I'm not logged in for some reason. It's fine. We can create some new lines today and see what's going on here. So first of all, we are looking at the daily chart here. Now, if we really want to look at some solid levels of support here, I would say this is a solid level of support at $23,500. If you like to go from body to body, we could also see this one here at $24,700. But the major level of support that I'm looking at right now, that I've been speaking about a lot here on the channel in the last couple of weeks, is this level here. Now, this has acted like a level of resistance. So we've got one here on the 14th of August. Let me zoom this in a little bit more so you can see it clearly. On the 14th of August, we use this on the daily chart as a resistance, and then again around the 18th of February. So now if we manage to hold this level as a level of support, that could look really, really nice for the price of Bitcoin. And in fact, it's looking really, really nice right now. If we manage to hold that level of support, as I keep saying, what I would like to know in the chat, my voice just broke. I would like to know in the chat, would you class this as an inverse head and shoulders pattern? Because it looks pretty nice to me. We've then come down and used that previous level of resistance, hopefully, potentially, as a level of support. And if we do so, we could be in for a really nice high price target there. But I'm keeping a very close eye on this level here to see if we can hold this range. Now, for a little bit more detail, I would probably be looking at the tops of the wicks of the bodies of these candles. So this is a resistance range between the $24,450 level and that $25,270 level. That's what I'm looking at as a level of support right now. So if we manage to hold those levels and start to move back to the upside, that's when I'd be starting to feel really positive once again. But as I keep saying here on the channel, there's no real rush here. We are in a nice price range right now, and the Bitcoin halving isn't until April 2024. So we can take our time here. We did see that huge crash yesterday. The price of Bitcoin dumped. Let's see how fast this dumps. This is the hourly candle. In 1 hour, we dumped 3%. Now, we have started to see a little bit of a move to the upside. Not really the bounce that I'd like to see. I'd like to see big wicks at the bottom there. We're at 1.36% since the local low that we did see there. I like to see big wicks coming all the way down here and back up again. That's when I start to feel a bit more positive. But it's not too bad. It could be a lot worse. You can see here, for example, we see these big wicks, and then we start to see those big moves to the upside once again. A big wick here, start to move to the upside. Big wick here, start to move to the upside. So that's why I like to see those big wicks to the downside, because it means that all of those long traders unfortunately have been liquidated, and that's usually when the markets like to move to the upside again, because the markets take the path of most pain. So until enough users are liquidated, the markets don't tend to move to the upside, but we did see that big unexpected drop yesterday, so that may have been enough. We will be keeping an eye on this. Sorry, I just keep rambling away on these live streams. You have to shut me up at some point. So we will be keeping an eye on this here on these live streams every single day at Crypto Saving Expert on YouTube. If you are following us along on any other social media platforms, don't forget to go over to YouTube at Crypto Saving Expert. Give us a like, give us a follow, and make sure to hit that bell notification button. And we will be back here tomorrow at the same time, reviewing the news, seeing what updates we have about Binance, and analyzing the price of Bitcoin as well. But that is all for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all back here tomorrow. Goodbye.